All right. And finally, now this is the one I meant to spend the most amount of time on, but as some of you may know, I made a video not that long ago about talking about writing, screenwriting, and the difference between bad writing and good writing as they appear on the movie and television screen. In that video, which now has 960 something views, which again from my channel, that's pretty good, I did discuss aspects of the Galadriel character. So here I wanted to do a follow-up, because I talked about stuff like her psychopathy, her narcissism, the way it was written into the show, the way that it comes across in her character, and I wanted to do a follow-up because I think I figured out what the writers are doing here. And I say that because when it comes to a show like this, Rings of Power, whatever else you want to say about those who wrote this, they're not stupid. The writers of Rings of Power are not stupid. The writers of She-Hulk are idiots.
A girl that you meet in the bathroom of a club will go and help you bury your dude if you need her to.
Obvious idiots. But the writers of Rings of Power have a purpose. In the Middle-earth lore, she's one of the greatest high elves ever to live. She has Ninya, one of the 3 rings of elven power, or the 3 elven rings of power. Tolkien himself deemed her as one of the mightiest and most fair of all elves remaining in Middle-earth. According to lore, Galadriel had no role in the major wars of the First Age, believing defeating Morgoth was beyond the power of the Eldar. She held her ring in abeyance until the One Ring was lost from Sauron. Then she used the power of Ninya to help enrich Lothlorien. And therefore, she was a very wise and powerful high elf, but she wasn't, quote, quite the psychotic warrior, quite the fierce warrior that Rings of Power made her out to be. So the question is, why did the writers write her that way? Why did they write her that way? Now, they knew going in that the first season wasn't going to be the only one. It's scheduled for 5 seasons, I think. Or maybe it was 7, I don't remember. But so the writers had to have something in mind with the character as they wrote it in the first season. Now, if they're going to successfully pull it off, they need to get past writing like this. Watch this next little scene.
Do you know why a ship floats and a stone cannot?
Because they're made of wood. Good!
Oh, yeah. Because they're made of wood. See, they've got to get better writing than that. But here's my central point. This is the Mirror of Galadriel scene from the 1978 version of Lord of the Rings, which was a cartoon version, but it was very well done. But this is the scene in which Frodo comes to look into the Mirror of Galadriel, and they talk about the Ring of Power and what he has to do, and he offers it to her. So please watch this.
We hid those 3 from him, and he has never touched them. If your quest fails, then nothing can stand against him, and we are defenseless. Yet if you succeed, if the One Ring is destroyed, all we built with the 3 will fade. Time will come here, and Lothlorien will fade. You are the footstep of doom to us, Frodo.
Lady Galadriel, I will give you the One Ring, if you ask for it. It's too great a matter for me.
And I came to test your heart. You will give me the great ring freely, and in place of the Dark Lord you will set up a queen. And I shall not be evil, but beautiful and terrible as the morning and the night, stronger than the foundations of the earth. All shall love me and despair. I pass the test. I will diminish and go into the west and remain Galadriel. And you must depart in the morning.
The words that she speaks in that scene are the exact same that she speaks in the Peter Jackson version, which would come later. But the tone is completely different. The tone is completely different. She said instead of a Dark Lord, you would have a queen. And here she dances around. She sort of like twirls around and twirls her dress as if it's some sort of almost humorous, right? And she delivers the same line, all shall love me and despair. But she says it again in sort of a light-hearted fashion. And then she says, well, I passed the test, right? I passed the test. Okay. Now, the Galadriel that's depicted here is not the same Galadriel that's depicted in the Peter Jackson version. Watch this.
I know what it is you saw. For it is also in my mind. It is what will come to pass if you should fail. The fellowship is breaking. It has already begun. He will try to take the ring. You know of whom I speak. One by one, it will destroy them all. If you ask it of me, I will give you the One Ring. You offer it to me freely. I do not deny that my heart has greatly desired this. In place of a Dark Lord, you would have a queen! Not dark, but beautiful and terrible as the dawn! Treacherous as the sea! Stronger than the foundations of the earth! All shall love me and despair!
Right, it's a completely different image that's set up. The nuance of that scene, I could talk about for 20 minutes. The nuance of that scene, the way her voice begins to deepen before she goes into her, again, her sort of a psychotic state. The look on her face when she reaches for the ring. Now, what I think is going on with the Rings of Power, the writers in the Rings of Power, and the manner in which they have written the Galadriel character for that show, is that they're building to this moment. They're building to this moment. They know they of course have all seen this, and the look in her eye. I can't remember the actress's name at the moment, but she does just a brilliant job here. I mean, this is Academy Award level stuff, if you ask me. But the way she pulls this off is that underneath the Lady Galadriel, in this particular scene, underneath the Lady Galadriel, is all the stuff that you saw in Rings of Power. All the stuff about how she can't stop fighting. She wants to eradicate the entire orc species. She takes joy in riding in and cutting people down. You know, she argues with Sauron and it goes into a heated rage because he made this offer to her about a partnership. It's all there. This is what the writers saw when they watched this scene. It's all in her right now at this moment. And this is the grand test for Galadriel. She's offered the ultimate power in Middle-earth. And had she been able to have the ring way back in the Second Age, she could have done everything she wanted to accomplish with it and then ruled Middle-earth, just like the Silmarillion says was her goal, to rule in Middle-earth. But she didn't have the One Ring. All she had was herself and in those days, and then later one of the Rings of Power. And she comes to this moment where, again, her true psychotic nature, the true powers underneath, are revealed to Frodo for a moment. This is what I think the writers are building to.
I passed the test.
This is one of the reasons, I should say, one of the reasons why they crafted Galadriel in the Rings of Power in the manner that they did.
I will diminish and go into the west and remain Galadriel. I cannot do this alone. You are a ring bearer, Frodo. To bear a ring of power is to be alone. This is Nennu, the Ring of Adamant, and I am its keeper. This task was appointed to you. And if you do not find a way, no one will.
And that context, you can differentiate between the bad writing of the script and the dialogue and the events which take place. The horrible writing about the Harfoots, the hobbits that are in the Rings of Power. At the end of it, they would have been able to tie her character back to this moment from the Lord of the Rings and have an understandable reason, as to a justifiable reason as to why she did all the things that she did, to bring her to this moment, right, where she was able to resist taking the One Ring. Okay, now in context of the show Rings of Power, it's still horribly written, but this is where I think it's going. Okay, everything she ever did will have been justified as a result of this moment. This is exactly where I think the writers are going to take her. They're going to take her on this character arc where over time she becomes a little less dogmatic, a little less horrid as a person, a little less demanding, a little less violent, a little less bloodthirsty as the thing goes along, until they can bring her to that moment that was depicted in Peter Jackson's Lord of the Rings. Now in that if they do it that way, then not only will I have been right once again in making a prediction about Rings of Power, but or about a pop culture entity, right? Not only will I have been right once again, but I will have to give them credit for the writers of Rings of Power to at least have had a vision with what they wanted to do with the character over time. And if they successfully pull it off, it will make the thing a bit more understandable. Now, these were just some articles I found where I put stuff up with a little background, of course, into the Galadriel character. But actually, I think I wrapped up basically what I wanted to say quicker than I thought I would. There is one thing left in the video. This is just general footage. This is from episode 1 of the Rings of Power, and it shows some of the backstory. Now, this particular scene doesn't have the same gravitas as the opening scene from Lord of the Rings, the Fellowship of the Ring that Peter Jackson did, but there are very few people who could have taken the material that they had and turned it into the kind of triumph that Peter Jackson did with the original 3 movies. Okay, but that's where I think it's going. I think the writing for Rings of Power is woefully inept, but I do think that the writers at least had a vision and a purpose for a reason, or if for lack of any other better word, they had a reason for why they wrote the character of Galadriel as they did, and they took the inspiration of that character from that moment in the Lord of the Rings film where she, sort of freaks out on Frodo, and I think that's my prediction. That's my prediction that they will continue to travel in that direction, building up to that particular moment. Well, that's it. That's the stuff I wanted to talk about tonight, so...
But you have not seen what I've seen.
I have seen my share.
You have not seen what I have seen.
Nothing to see here!
You have not seen what I have seen. You have not seen what I have seen. You have not seen what I have seen.
Yamaha, Nikon, Casio, Iwa.